Time now for St. Helens Town Talk Cafe with Steve Toski. The opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of KOHI Radio, staff, or advertisers. Now, here's Steve.
Hey everyone, it's a wonderful Friday here, spring, March 8th, 2024. We are looking at the sun peeking through and warm weather coming.
It's trying to.
I hear it's 70 next week.
Oh,
70
what?
Next week. Yes, that's what somebody told me. I know. It
What?
could be fake news, but 70 degrees
I don't know.
next
I believe
week.
it. You never know. It's Oregon.
Yes, and here we are in our beautiful cafe today, and the special is cappuccino with caramel. Not super exciting, but
That sounds well thought out, though.
I know. Yeah, it is well thought out. Cappuccino with caramel with a little brandy in it. So
there you go.
I know.
Add a little spice.
We sneak the brandy in. So come on in for those. And who should walk into the cafe today? Who should walk into the cafe but the man, the legend, the walking legend, Bill Eagle and his lovely wife Claudia. They came in today, and they are. Bill, if you don't mind me interrupting you from your breakfast, first of all, I see you got the eggs and the bacon. How'd you like those?
Oh, I think they're great. You know, the Agnes Gregory is the one that runs the Town Talk Cafe, and her husband's name was Mel.
Yes.
And Mel wanted to run for county commissioner. He ran for county commissioner several times in the past.
Did he get it?
No, he didn't. He at that time he ran as a Republican, and he said, he says I could change to Democrat and I'd get elected, but I'm not going to do that because I have values. I have values. I'm going to run as a Republican because I believe in the Republican Party. I believe in what I'm doing. Mel was a decent human being. He was a really nice person and somebody that one could actually admire.
We actually found their old recipes, and so we've actually rolled out some of their stuff. I did not know Agnes and Mel, and
Doris was their cook.
Doris was their cook. Well, Tim's running the kitchen now. And, let's go into the soundproof room. Let's go into the soundproof room now. Oh my goodness! Thank you. I hate to you bring your breakfast with you, Bill. So, yeah, so Town Talk Cafe was, before it became a virtual everywhere place to be.
It was a real place.
It was a real place.
Real place. It was right at the end of Plaza Square.
It was in the Rutherford building where my father-in-law owns that building, and Robin, my wife, remembers going there. And that this place is in memory of that and the atmosphere that brought, and the chat that we could do here in St. Helens and about our people that live here are wonderful people. So, including you and your lovely wife Claudia, and. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for coming to be on the show.
I'm just delighted to be able to be here.
And so, I don't know if people know, Kim, I hate to tell you this. I told Bill we normally don't out people on the show at all, but I'm going to out Bill today.
Okay.
Born and raised in California.
Oh,
Bill.
man.
I know.
Not only that, but it was Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
And it was the place. And I remember I used to take a deep breath and my lungs would hurt.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. I thought that was normal. I said, my friends, their lungs hurt too. And we had terrible smog, just terrible sit down there in the valley.
I asked Bill though. I said, do you roll your right turns on stops, Bill? You can answer now. Do you roll your right turns on stops?
Question.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I never have. Even in California. I didn't do California stops in California.
Well, you can be a local then.
I feel like he's a true Oregonian.
I know. At some point, you can switch over. I don't know when, though. But I don't know. You're pretty controversial, Bill. I think that...
you realize I've been here in Oregon longer than you've been alive.
You know what? To some people, I'm not sure if that... Does that matter? Does length of time matter? I don't know about that.
I don't know. And all I know is Tom McCall was governor. And I loved Tom McCall. Now, Claudia, my wife, she was a friend of Mark Hatfield. She dug worms for Mark Hatfield at Willamette University. He was dean of men when she went there. And so
for like
he used to play chess. Mark Hatfield used to play chess with Claudia's grandfather.
Okay, did he throw the worm at the other person?
I don't know. Tell me, Claudia, did they throw the worm at anybody? You have to talk in the microphone.
What were the worms for? What were those worms
I don't
for?
remember him throwing any worms.
Okay, all right. So Bill, I told you we might get into your radically liberal politics later because we're very tolerant of everybody's views here on Town Talk Cafe. There, and Kim, I'm sure you've noticed that people in St. Helens have differing points of view.
They sure do.
It is amazing.
All walks of life.
Yeah, we are. Some people have this far right wing points of view, far left wing points of view, and here we are, all living in the same town.
Yep.
And I think we need to make sure that we're tolerant of other people's points of views and try to remember that all of us are on an individual journey here in life, and we need to make sure that we try to look at things from other people's points of view. Who knows? Maybe we'll find some truth. What do you think about that, Bill? What do you think about listening to other points of view?
I think you have to listen to other people's point of view in order. There's never one single way to view something. However, the thing is that you need to be able to see truth.
Yes.
And if you can see truth, that's the key thing.
Yeah. Well, that's a difficult thing.
Differentiate.
Nobody. I say, I'm not God. I don't know the truth.
We hear different versions of the truth.
That's right. And I'm just, my mind is susceptible to being influenced by bias, and I only have so much information, and try to get at the truth. So don't adhere necessarily. Don't cling to something you think is the truth. Maybe always strive for the truth. What do you think of that?
I totally agree with you.
So you were in L.A. until you were 22, and I understand you were thinking you were getting into some gunfights down there, and so
No, I didn't get any fights.
Oh, no, you didn't.
I got in no fights. No, what had happened, I was working with Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah.
And I actually was setting up people for buys with drug buys.
Yeah. Okay.
And
what kind of drugs? Pot?
All kinds of. Listen, I tried to explain to the Sheriff's Department that there was a problem there. And they wouldn't, at first they didn't believe me because my prices were too low and my quantities were too high.
Oh, you were a bargain basement dude.
I was a bargain basement dude, yeah. And it turned out that that it was a lot bigger than I thought. I thought it was just a small former friends selling drugs to kids.
Yeah.
Turned out it was huge. They were stealing. Actually, they were breaking into ammo depots. And they were National Guard and ammo depots. At that time, they didn't have the security that they have now, and they're trading guns for narcotics.
Wow, that sounds like
and the thing is, I had just got off of active duty in the Air Force, and they thought I was a cool guy. They asked me. They said, "Hey," he said, "what is this?" I said, "Oh," and I pretended like it. Now you understand that in the Air Force, I learned to be a cook. That's where I
Wait a minute.
I didn't know anything about explosives.
Where
I didn't know anything about
They thought you were qualified to steal munitions.
I said, "Oh yes." I said, "Oh, those are little canisters of TNT. See that hole in there? I said, "These are blasting caps." I said, "You just put this in there, hook it up to 1.5 volt battery, and boom. That's all. It's real simple." I didn't have the slightest idea how they worked. I just made that up on the spot. They tried it out, and it worked just the way I said it would.
Wow.
And it turned out that they were going to wire a person's car up. That they had decided that
be careful
this
about
person,
talking about this. I'm
this
advising you as an attorney. You're probably
Here
getting
comes
into.
the lawyer.
There is no statute of limitations.
That's fine. That's fine. Anyway, this is why I went. I told them. I said, "You guys are going to have to do something quick." To the Sheriff's Department, they're going to kill somebody. You've got to do something about this. He had cheated them at that time out of what he said was a jar of beans. Those were Benzedrine pills. There was 1,000 pills. It cost them at that time. They got them for $17 for 1,000.
I can tell you, cheat somebody out of a jar of bennies, and you deserve to get blown up.
Yeah, well, that's what they're going to do. And so anyway, they started making arrests.
Yeah.
And they had big headlines in the Los Angeles Times about this huge, largest drug bust in the history of Southern California. I said, what? Yeah. Evidently, it was a lot bigger than I thought it was. And it had nothing. I mean, it had much more to do than just my friend who was peddling Benzedrine pills and whatever else.
But you decided to get out of town.
I thought it was time for me to leave.
Sounds about right.
It was not healthy for me to be there, and so I went.
I agree with you.
And I went to Jewel, Oregon. My sister had a farm in Jewel. She had 200 acres in Jewel. And so I thought, well, heck, I'd hide out there.
Deep underground.
Much better.
Deep underground. I'm going to 200 acres in Jewel and hanging out.
Yep.
Where there's no smog.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
So your lungs felt better. And
yeah.
And I know we talked a little bit about your Air Force days before we came on the.
Well, actually, I didn't finish talking about Air Force days. You know, I spent all this time as a cook, and I hated being a cook.
Yeah.
It just wasn't manly enough, you know. I just wasn't. And so when I came up to Portland, I transferred the unit over there in Portland. Yeah. And so they're getting these people were getting all these exciting jobs like being projectionists and being running typewriters and stuff like that. And so I wanted to get into something there. And he said, well, we have no problem with you. You're a cook. You're a trained cook. I said, I don't want to be a cook. He said, well, you have to talk to the mess steward. He'll talk you out. He said, and if he decides that he'll let you go, we can find somewhere else for you to train. So I talked to the mess steward. And I talked to the mess steward. And I talked to the mess steward. And he says, I don't want to ever see you in my mess hall again. Ooh. So I came back and said, hey, guess what? He says, I can train for something else. So I went into air crash rescue. And I thought, oh, this is going to be exciting. This is a manly thing. And air crash rescue consisted mostly, well, either sitting on the end of the runway watching airplanes land, or mopping the floor, cleaning fire trucks. You know, it was a matter of. It wasn't quite as exciting as I thought it was. We did get to train with the Portland Fire Department too, though. It was really kind of neat. In fact, our chief of our air crash rescue, he actually worked for the Portland Fire Department.
Well, so how long you were in Air Force Reserves for like
6 years?
6 years.
6 years.
And then
I got out, and I swore I'm never going to go back in the military again. And so 2 years later,
what a shock!
2 years later, I enlisted in the Army Reserve. And believe it or not, it was probably one of the most fascinating jobs I ever had.
How long were you in the Army Reserve?
28 and a half years total.
And I understand you met a good friend of yours there. Was it in the Army Reserve?
Harry Price.
Okay, and we're gonna have you read something that you want to read about your friend Harry Price. So
I'll tell
later.
Something about it later.
Okay. Now, but so you were there 28 years Army Reserve, and now just for those of you that my understanding is we had another soldier who is currently in the reserves. In fact, he's training this weekend. Chris, he was on our show a few weeks ago. Lives in St. Helens. Now, my understanding is that, if there's something breaks out and we need to go, they quote call up the reserves.
That's right.
That's right. So you guys are you're the first in if there's
not only that, but I've been in the Army Reserve. I've been to Europe twice. I've been to Korea 4 times. I've been to Japan 4 times. I've been to Thailand. While in Thailand, I was able to go. We go in teams. It was special ops, actually. We were go in teams of 3, and I did pesticide poison prevention lectures in Thailand.
Pesticide poison prevention?
And
was that like from Agent Orange? Avoid?
No.
When the planes are flying over, dropping it, run?
No. Actually, what it was is that we had American and European companies were disposing of pesticides and solvents and such in Thailand that were banned elsewhere in the world, and I was teaching them how to read the labels, and all the labels. Now they spoke Thai, they Sanskrit they write in Sanskrit. All labels were in English.
Yeah,
and I was teaching them how to read the labels, understand how dangerous some of these things were, and these people were. Even some of the solvents that they're using were terribly caustic, and these people they're wearing sandals, short shorts, and T-shirts, and exposing themselves to these horrible things. So, and I was working. Actually, we got to work with the Thai Extension Service, and I was amused that in Thailand, their extension service was actually they're based on a lot of the things they do in the United States. But the extension service, all extension agents wore uniforms, and they had medals, and it was kind of neat. It was kind of neat actually. But they also had 4-H there. And they had 4-H girls with 4-H hats, and,
wow.
and
so we disposed of these solvents in Thailand.
Well, it wasn't just us. I mean, it's European countries. There's international companies disposed of them there, but it was all written in English.
It's amazing what we did with to other people. And,
yeah.
I mean, we still have some areas around here. There are some areas around here where our own companies here disposed of some things, and we have some toxic ground in St. Helens that belongs to the port, which is untouchable property, just so that we all understand about how things used to be done and how things hopefully are going to improve in the future. I mean, that's I'm glad you were at least helping them stay away from it.
Well, the nice thing about my Army job is that we did real-world things in other countries, and we worked with foreign militaries, we worked with foreign governments. We worked usually at the, even in military exercises. Usually we worked at the top at the upper level with the military with the military exercise. We were civil affairs is what we were. We call this and it was an interesting job.
What was your rank in the reserves, Army Reserves?
I was a first sergeant. I retired as a first sergeant.
Oh my goodness! Can you imagine being a private under Bill's command? That sounds
actually, it was a good command. My people got more awards than any other in my company than any other company. I'm really pleased about that.
Good.
Got some excellent people. I was civil affairs. I went from civil affairs. I became then I was a first sergeant for a drill sergeant unit. Mm-hmm. And my drill sergeants, they took care of me. I took care of my drill sergeants, and they took care of me so that I didn't embarrass them, because I had no idea what they did in Army basic training.
Yeah. Well. Thank you very much for your service, Bill, and I'm glad you didn't end up... How the heck did you avoid getting roped into some kind of combat role? Because you were in there for a lot of time, and we had a few wars along the way.
We had a lot of wars by the time. We had a number of people who went to Desert Storm. We trained. It's interesting. I worked for... we worked in training people for Desert Storm, and we trained the troops, and also, I was at that time I was what they call a chief reactor, and I had a team of people that we had a simulated village. We had simulated cache. There actually it was prior to Desert Storm. Take that back. Prior to the invasion of Panama, we trained the troops for the invasion of Panama, and then later on for Desert Storm. But it was interesting. It was interesting work. I'm really pleased I didn't have to shoot anybody. I didn't have to be shot at either.
Yeah, I'm glad of that too, and I'm glad you're around. And so then so I guess you were the district for 30 years, though. In your civilian role, you were the district conservationist.
I was a district conservation. This is 1980. I came to Columbia County as district conservation. I was here before. Originally, I was here as a technician. Then I went to Multnomah County, and then from Multnomah County, I went to Benton County, and Benton County, I went back to Oregon State University and got my degree.
Okay, so you're a beaver.
Yeah.
My neighbors will you can come on my street then.
Yeah.
My neighbors I live on a street of all beavers, and my son went to the U of O, and they tolerate me barely on the street.
Barely? Do you get heckled sometimes?
Oh, are you kidding me? You can't put the O out at all. You burn it on those beavers will chew away at you. And what'd you get your degree in?
In agriculture. Actually, I was crops and soils, and the
living things of the world, Bill.
Yeah.
That seems totally appropriate based upon at least my brief time knowing you. And so, district conservationist. Now, tell me what that role was about, because you did it for 30 years.
Well, okay, we help people with problems on their land. I work with 2 different soil and water conservation districts. I help the people in the district. I help people solve their land use problems.
So is this development problems? How to grow crop problems?
It was as far as farming. About pasture management. I help them with their pasture management. What grasses to plant. I put together farm plans for people. Ways in which they can improve their what they have. If they want to build ponds or do drainage work or whatever else, or forestry work, I could help them with that.
And then who did you do this, when you say district conservationists, it's for the
Natural Resource
county?
Conservation Service. It was a USDA Department of Agriculture.
Wow, okay, 30 years you did that.
Yeah.
And where were you based out of?
St. Helens.
Wow, and so are there some works that we could even see today that you were involved with helping put in?
Quite sure that there are a number of works.
I'm very curious about something. Now, this was a little off topic, but being from California, Kim and Bill, and more recently than 40 years ago, one of the things that people find remarkable about this area, and I do when they visit here, and one of the things that attracted me to this area is just the abundance of the natural wildlife that still lives right next to us. When I tell people I'm out on the river fishing and I see a bald eagle fly by, they are stunned and they can't believe it. And I think as a Californian and maybe somewhat liberal leaning in the natural world, I'm trying to think, how do we formulate a plan where we can keep this natural beauty around us as we grow?
That's one of the things also I worked with them, was in developing the wildlife habitat on their property.
Yeah, and I think there should be some, we should be talking about incentivization for that, because right now, it's push, build, and you chop the tree down where the nest is in it, that eagle dies, and now we have nesting eagles on Sand Island. There's nesting eagles right up the Multnomah Channel. There are nesting eagles up the Columbia River, and these are eagles and osprey that live on the river within 5 miles of us, and many pairs. And they are. It only takes some slight changes, and all of that goes away.
That's true. That's very true.
So, anyway, so I think as a district conservationist, somebody who's I don't know. These are just things to talk about. That's all.
Well, no, but our big thing is that we got to help people. Some people would get in trouble with. Now, that's the other thing. When we dealt with the individual, we dealt in confidentiality. I put together a conservation plan for them. I said, now, this is between you and I. Mm-hmm. This doesn't go anywhere else. We practiced client confidentiality. We also became the ombudsman for the person. If they had a problem with the government, we would work on their behalf to help solve that problem. And if they had a problem with pollution or something like that, we could help them end up their animal waste problems. We'd help them with that. The other thing, if people didn't want to work with us, that was fine. We still didn't blow the whistle on them.
Is there currently some kind of...
Yes, there is.
Is there the same kind of role?
We have a natural resource conservation office right here, right now. And we also have the Columbia Soil and Water Conservation District, which I'm real pleased because I was the principal petitioner to get them a tax base.
Nice.
And we...
No, I don't want to say too nice about new taxes, but that's okay.
Well, it's very little. It's
you got to pay for it.
It's 10 cents per $1,000. We would campaign and said, give a dime for conservation. If you give a dime for conservation, if you care about the environment, it's worth a dime to you.
That song, Loan Me a Dime.
Yeah, give me a dime. Yeah. And anyway, the Soil and Water Conservation District, we have a very active district, and some of the things that the Natural Resource Conservation Service has now limited where they can't do some things, the district can. And if you have a problem, you could contact the Columbia Soil and Water Conservation District, and they have a staff of people that can help you.
I can tell you, having dealt with the recent government regulatory folks,
We don't regulate.
Well, that's good, because I could tell you walk in there and you start asking questions. The next thing you know, a net's thrown over you, and you're thrown into some kind of red tape jungle.
That's something that we don't do. That was why we worked as an ombudsman. We would cut the red tape for people. It's unique. It was a unique agency because we didn't enforce any laws. We helped people solve their legal problems, but we didn't enforce the laws. We didn't turn on people. We worked, and I said the reason we worked in confidentiality, it was to protect us as well as the individual that we're working with.
I think that there is. I think that resource is something that I was unaware of, and I'm hoping.
And the price is right; they're free, and there's no cost to it.
Wow.
Now that, I'm a big fisherman out there on the river, and we had Dave Sass of the CCA on here, and I've been talking to some commercial fishermen, trying to get some commercial guys on here, and they, what everybody's talking about now is restoration of habitat, and where salmon can migrate up and breed. And, there used to be salmon up Milton Creek. There used to be salmon up in Scappoose. And this agricultural, these federal resources that are now coming out, maybe people who have private land, and we'd be talking seriously about habitat restoration, getting some salmon runs back here locally, talking to people about prioritizing that.
Well, that's one of the things that the Soil and Water Conservation District is doing. They help people with restore salmon habitat.
Well, I think that's
they're doing recovery, and and not only that, but also they also help people to protect their buildings, protect their property, help them with stream bank stabilization. They can do that. And as I say, problems on land. Now, there are some things they can't do, but they usually can find someone even outside of the agency that can help the person.
I think it's going to take a lot of help, because we've kind of we got where we were from, and I think what Dave said is not necessarily people on purpose did something. I just think that it hasn't necessarily been a priority.
But anyway, it's their phone number, by the way.
There we go. Give them a plug.
503-433-3205. That's 503-433-3205. That's Columbia Soil and Water Conservation District.
There you go.
And the Natural Resource Conservation Service, if you're a farmer or have a large landowner, they're 397-4555.
Wow. Okay. So now you guys have heard that, and so hopefully they're not going to rat you out, and they're not going to bust you.
That's right. That's right.
They're actually going to try and help you.
Work in confidentiality, and they become your ombudsman in facing some of help you face your problems.
They're not going to throw the net of red tape over you.
That's exactly right. They are not. They're going to try to cut the red tape for you.
There you go. Now we're talking. Now I tell you something. I hope their scissors are sharp, and that will help. So you did that for 30 years, and now you've been retired for a while, right?
Been over 20 years. 24 years I've been retired. Actually, I wrote a newspaper column for 10 years too.
You did. So you're a member. You're still a member of the press.
Not anymore.
Would you like to join the Town Talk Cafe press team?
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Do I get a badge?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to give you the roving reporter role.
Yeah, when Tammy was on before, Tammy had a problem with the port. She represented the St. Helens Update, which was my webpage, and I had ID for her. She had a picture ID that she could show that she was a reporter for the St. Helens Update. Yeah.
Well, awesome. We're gonna, part of the expansion of the Town Talk Cafe. Right now we have a Facebook presence. We are expanding our YouTube presence with our archive shows. Our website will be launched this year, and I am looking for somebody who is wanting to blog, and I would love to have have you write some pieces, and we could put them online, and then maybe you could help me cover some of these executive sessions. We're going to do some news later about that, by the way, Marty. Good. So we're going to be doing some news. We got big news, front page news.
I saw the story. I saw the story in the Spotlight. So
yeah.
I would like to tell a little bit about Harry Price.
Okay, hang on. We're not quite there yet. So let me wind this
time
up
for Harry.
Oh, I'm watching the
that
clock
clock
here.
is. I think that clock is not. Right.
There's
that
no.
clock.
None, I don't think any of the clocks.
That clock.
Yeah, that clock doesn't work.
There's no clocks. There's no clocks that are right in here. Right? But I took note when we started, so I have you at the half an hour mark. So, I know you want to talk about Harry, and I want to talk to you about your liberal politics, but I guess we'll go to Harry first. So let me ask you this question. Let's tee this up a bit. So, how did you meet Harry?
Harry, I've known Harry since the 1975.
Okay, and he was a very good friend of yours.
He was a very good friend of mine. He probably was one of my best friends.
Okay, and he recently passed.
And he passed on Valentine's Day.
Okay, very sorry for your loss. And I'm glad you're going to have an opportunity to talk about Harry and tell a story about Harry. And then Harry how were you connected to Harry in life? Just kind of give us a couple quick snippets on
in life. Well, first off, of course, he and I were in the same Army unit together. Mm-hmm. But also I got to teach some of his classes, for outdoor school. We did outdoor school with the kids. Did on-site classroom development with his school. And
which school was that?
That happens to be. He had several schools. He had Rainier Elementary, then he had Rainier Middle School, both.
Wow. And so what was his role there?
He was the principal.
Okay.
He was school superintendent of Delina School District too, till they combined with Rainier, and then he became a school principal.
And then you met him through the service?
Well, yeah, actually through the Army, yeah.
And then
we used to commute together.
And then you guys became fast friends for many, many years.
For many, many years. Yes.
Okay, why don't you share something with us?
Anyway, Harry Price and Harry. Thing is this is an article that I wrote. Must have been at least about 8-10 years ago about him. But I used to tell a lot of stories about Harry in my news article. Some of them were even true.
That's good.
He was the butt of he was often the butt of many a story but the thing I wanted to point out that he was a real person. He was smart, brave, compassionate. He was always big. He was a big man, and he used to be a big kid. Years ago, Harry lied about his age and enlisted in the Army. Now, when I say lie about his age, I'm talking about he was just barely into his teens. He lied about he went to Korea to fight, and he served well and honorably, and he was counted well for himself. Unfortunately, he was wounded, and the Army took a closer look at his credentials, and they found that he was very much underage and sent him packing. In fact, they banned him from ever enlisting in the military again.
Wow, how did he get back in?
Well,
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, it took an act of Congress. Actually, took an act.
Wow.
It literally took an act of Congress.
He is big
to let him in, get him in. No, when I talk about young, he was 13 when he first enlisted. Can you imagine a 13-year-old kid?
Well, I keep going with the story.
Anyway, he was always a hard worker, and he worked his way through college and through graduate school, and he became a teacher and later a school administrator. People always appreciated how well he was able to work with other people. People appreciated his ample intelligence and is balanced by his equally abundant compassion. Harry was a patriot. He enlisted in the Army Reserve, and he started as a private, and he retired as a lieutenant colonel.
Oh.
And I thought I'd add this. This wasn't in my article, but when I met him in 1974 at Ashland, California, he was a specialist fourth class, and he said he was the oldest specialist fourth class in the entire Army. He went in 1 day's time from specialist fourth class to captain. He got a direct commission.
Wow.
And that was
officer.
Yep, he was an officer. He went from, but he started as a private, and he retired as a lieutenant colonel. And whatever he did well. He brought honor on himself and upon others who work with him. And he did have one small flaw. He liked to tell tall stories and play practical jokes on people.
Really? Really, the guy who enlists in the Army at 13 likes to tell tall stories and play practical jokes. What a shock.
Sounds like a fun guy.
He'd play jokes on his children, his coworkers, and his friends. Years ago, the Rainier Brewing Company used to run a really cute advertisement. They ran it as a television commercial that featured a strange animal that was a cross between a deer and a beer can. I don't know whether you knew it. They called this creature a Rainier.
Wow.
Their television commercials would show people in the woods dressed in hunting clothes, stalking wild Rainiers, and Harry Price was inspired by all of this and was continually telling his children that he'd spotted Rainiers in the woods behind his home. He lived in Beaver Springs. He'd drive the kids to school, and he traveled the winding road from his place in Beaver Springs, and he'd shout, "Look, kids, did you see that? I saw a Rainier jump in the brush right over there." And sometimes they'd stop and hunt for Rainier droppings. There's no telling the sort of things that the kids would turn up. And I recently read an internet story about a middle school principal who coped with kids placing lipstick impressions on restroom mirrors. Now, I rarely believe anything I read on the internet, but this story was different. I happen to know that this particular story was true. I know the people who are involved, and Harry was one of them. Mrs. Welter, one of Harry's custodians, approached him. He says, "I'm getting sick and tired of having to clean up after these freshman girls." "What are they doing?" said Mr. Price. "They're kissing the mirrors," responded Mrs. Welter. "They're what?" asked Harry. "Kissing the mirrors and leaving big lipstick smears all over them. I'm getting sick and tired of cleaning up after them." Harry stood up from his desk, walked over to Mrs. Welter, and smiled. "I think I know how to handle this." A special meeting was called with all the freshman girls. All were marched into the girls' restroom, where Mrs. Welter awaited them. "Girls," announced Mr. Price, "Mrs. Welter works very hard trying to keep things clean around here, and I'm afraid that you're not making things easy for her. I'd like Mrs. Welter to show you how difficult it is for her to clean lip impressions off these mirrors." Mrs. Welter picked up a large-handled sponge, walked over to the nearest toilet stall. She then dipped the sponge into the toilet bowl and walked over to the mirror. "Ooh!" gagged the girls as they watched her scrub the mirror. Never more did Mrs. Welter have to worry about lipstick-stained glass.
That's a way to do it.
On another occasion, Harry was alerted to children smoking in the bushes behind his school, and he handled this real well. He borrowed from his early experience with the girls, and he filled a bucket full of water and added some toilet paper. He then quietly snuck up to a smoke-engulfed bush and dumped the bucket on it. His action was greeted with screams and shouts, and Harry pretended innocence, and he told the kids that he didn't realize that anyone was smoking. He said he spotted the smoke, and he thought that there was a fire, and he told them that he dipped the bucket into what he thought was the nearest water source, a toilet. Harry explained in all seriousness, "I had no idea there were people behind these bushes." On still another occasion, he discovered that some of his smaller children had removed some of the air ducts underneath the school building. Evidently, some of the kids thought it'd be fun to spend their recess time exploring them. It didn't take Harry long to use his unique manner to bring duct exploration to an end. He met with several classes, and he told the children stories about giant carnivorous rats that lived in the heating ducts. He also told them stories about children that crawled under the school and have never been seen again.
Dun, dun, dun.
Harry's approach to education was unique, and he managed to get results. Harry's humor didn't stop at work. He loved little pranks. He'd sometimes enlist his friends into participating with him in his little games. He once had me pose as a person from the psychic hotline and call a friend. He provided me with abundant personal information, and he had me give her what were supposed to be winning bingo numbers. This
lottery numbers.
This prank sort of backfired. The lady played the numbers, and at least according to Harry, won $100.
Oh, no. Now she's hooked.
Yeah. Harry and I, along with several other people in our community, served together in the Army Reserve. We'd carpool and enjoy each other's company while traveling to our reserve center in South Portland. Lori, and that's not her real name, was a new member of our group. She and Harry traveled together from Rainier to St. Helens. Lori, being new, didn't know any of us. New meat was all Harry needed. He decided that I would be the butt of his newest joke. He conspired with Jim and Sue. That's Jim Diaz and Sue Muller. That's
Jim Diaz, the real estate guy.
Jim Diaz, and he was in my Army unit, so it was Sue Muller.
I bought a property from the Diaz's, just to let you guys know. I've been around. I may have been a tourist for 30 years, but I knew some stuff.
Sue was actually an Army nurse. And anyway, Lori, said Harry, you'd better be careful when you're around that Eagle guy. Why's that? Asked Lori. The man's a wife beater and a serial rapist.
Now
his Eagle is free only on a technicality, so you better make sure that you're not alone with him.
Oh my God.
Claudia, you can still turn him in.
I couldn't figure. I could not figure out why. I couldn't figure out why Lori was so unfriendly. She'd give me these strange looks and clutch her purse closely to her chest. And at the same time, the other members of our carpool would smirk and give us both strange looks. Jim would joke with me, say, "Hey, Bill, have you beat your wife lately?" And I'd respond with, "You bet, she likes it."
Oh my God!
Harry and Sue would also join in adding details about using rubber hoses and various tricks so that you don't have to show marks. I had no idea that Lori thought we were serious. It was a strange situation. It would have continued had Lori not made a point of carrying a large bore pistol in her purse. Not only did she have a large pistol, she decided that it was about time for me to know that she wasn't afraid to use it. And this quickly brought our joking in. I mean, her pistol may not have been as large as in my mind it was, but it was, to me, it looked huge. It looked gigantic when she pulled it out, I'll tell you.
You thought the drug dealers in L.A. were dangerous.
Oh, that was...
Look out for Lori.
She literally scared the hell out of me. And she scared Harry enough to make him want to tell the truth. Shortly after that, Lori stopped commuting with our group.
Shocking.
I know.
Harry Price.
Sometimes Harry took a joke a little too far.
Yeah, he did. Harry Price was a man whose mind was like lightning and whose conversation was filled with interesting patter. Did I ever tell you guys about the time I saw Bigfoot? No, Harry, you never did, we'd answer. Well, it was like this, said Harry. My friend Harry Price, was a real person. He was smart, brave, compassionate. He loved a good story, and I'm pleased to have had him for a friend.
Aww.
Oh, well, you know what? Thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Harry Price, for your contributions to our community and all those kids in Rainier that were able to, grow up with his under his leadership and tutelage.
Hunting the Rainier,
and I'm glad that you had a chance to share that, and
I'm glad that I had a chance to know Harry.
There you go. Me too. And you know what? Now his memory will carry on forever on the World Wide Web.
Yep.
We're going to put the Bill Eagle Talks Harry Price in our Town Talk Radio.
Archive it.
Now I do got to ask you a couple questions though. So my like I said, I'm kind of newer to town, and I don't know who Bill Eagle is very much. So I start, going around on the jungle where the big feet are, and that's Facebook. Yeah, I know it's a jungle. And here's Bill Eagle with all of these. I have no idea where you get them, Bill, but you continually post. I would say funny to some, maybe not funny to others. Little things about the opposite. We'll say
about Donald Trump.
Yeah, about Donald Trump, right?
No, you have to understand that I didn't like Donald Trump when he was a Democrat.
Well, he was a Democrat.
Oh, he was a Democrat.
Yeah,
yes, he was a Democrat.
Donald Trump's always been a. Is it about Trump so much, or is it about more like just conservatives in general?
No, actually not conservatives in general, because but primarily Trump is not a conservative. He's not a conservative. No, he's a reactionary, and he's concerned with only one person. That's Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, if you want some very interesting and funny, I tell you this: if you're a Trump hater, get on Brady's Facebook page. What's Brady's Facebook page?
I don't know what.
Democrats.
Yeah, that's
Democrats of Columbia County or something like that.
Yeah, Columbia County Democrats.
And Bill's got. Let's just say, if you're a Trump hater, you will love the daily dose of Trump needling. That is for sure. So you're not a radical liberal. See, and so I don't want to get too much into your politics. Let's talk about. We're going to segue into the news pretty quick here, and so let's segue into the news. Do we have our bumper music? Can we get Scott Jorgensen's bumper music up? There we go.
There it is.
There we go. Yeah. See, we're gonna. Here we go. We're gonna.
Oh man, that's loud!
Oh! We're hitting the news.
Oh,
we're hitting the news.
Knock it out. Here it comes.
Yeah. Chaos is the order of the day. Chaos is the order of the day. All right, enough of that.
There we go.
So we're gonna hit the news. So front page news, Bill. Front page news. Town Talk Cafe makes the front page of the Spotlight for getting a squeaker vote for the sole press agent for Town Talk Cafe so far, Steve Toski, to attend executive session meetings. And you, as a former member of the press, where you were, what was your, what did you do as a member?
I was a columnist.
Columnist.
Actually,
okay.
I wrote for two papers. Actually, I even got to write for the Chronicle and for the Spotlight, both as well. But both times the red editors got fired.
But for your columns?
Well, I mean, I like to think it was, but that probably may not have been true. But I remember Dawn Taylor wanted me to write for her. She had me write editorials for the Spotlight. And
how many years did you do that for?
Oh, I only did it for a few months. Not Spotlight, for the Chronicle. Excuse me. And at the time, Pam Parsons was the owner. And some people started complaining about the direction the Spotlight had taken, and so they asked Dawn. They said, Dawn, we're concerned about the direction. She said, well, I like Bill Eagle's articles. I like Bill Eagle's editorials. I'm not going to change them. And so then they went to the owner and they fired her.
Fired the lady
Dawn,
that
yeah,
like
really.
So why didn't they just fire you?
No, they didn't fire me. Then there was a time. Then there was a time I wrote for the Spotlight, and I had a column, and I think while I was writing, I don't know when I was writing for the Spotlight, whether I was writing for the paper in Longview or not. I think I still do both papers, and it was a different.
Well, I'm recruiting you to be. Town Talk Cafe is looking for more depth in our news department. Right now, we're down to one person, and so there was a little controversy because, and I just kind of want to give some people some background on this, and that is, St. Helens City Council holds executive sessions, and what that means is the City Council meets and discusses things outside the public view. And they are not they're very narrow things that the City Council can talk about. You can talk about a land sale, land transaction. If there's an employee issue, labor issue, you can talk about that in secret. But you're not supposed to be talking about what are we going to do about this thing. They're
not supposed to change the subject. There's only certain. It's very restricted. I used to always keep a list of things that you could talk about in executive session. Had a one page list.
Yeah, it's a one-page list. And then when you go off that one-page list, when you're dealing with people, you're contracting with people, making long-term plans. the idea is our government's supposed to be open in Oregon, Oregon, Brandon Sundin, I learned through this process. He asked the attorney, and Oregon is one of the only states that allows the press to be in executive session, and the purpose for the press to be in the executive session is as a watchdog, meaning if the city council starts talking about things they're not supposed to talk about, the press can actually report them to the Ethics Commission. You're not supposed to report it in the newspaper, but you can report them to the Ethics Commission. And we're the only state that allows that. So I guess it's on the honor system. These guys can meet. We're really the only state that has that. So I applied because of our news program here to be a member of the press, and then there was a bit of controversy. I had to.
I'm surprised there was controversy.
Yeah.
Tammy had the same problem with the Chronicle. She came as a reporter for the St. Helens Update, which is my webpage, the sthelensupdate.com. And she even had printed credentials with her picture and everything on. I thought it was kind of cool, and they called the police on her.
I'm going to make up our. There will be a Town Talk Cafe press credentials. I cannot get it from Kohai because, as we pointed out to the city council, Kohai is not responsible for our content here, and our content is our own, but we are broadcasting under Kohai's FCC license. This is freedom of speech. This is freedom of the press in its purest form. And we had a conversation with Brady in the break room before he came here, and one of the questions was, when are you the press? And we go back to Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin was the press, and what the press meant was you printed a piece of paper and you handed it out on the street, and you were the press.
Yeah, Martin Luther was the press when he posted his theses in Wittenberg.
You can just make a T-shirt.
A
press.
You can. So
make it official.
Are bloggers the press? I say yes. I say if you disseminate anything that anybody reads, you are the press, because the last thing we want to do is have the man being able to tell people what to say, where they can say it. So, what do you think of that? What do you think of that?
I absolutely believe it.
Yeah, and so we made the front page of the news. So if anybody's read the Spotlight, this controversy, I'm glad it didn't turn into one. I'm glad that we went through a process. We applied. We were asked questions about the news program we do here, and we do local news, and I answered all the questions, and then the city council held a hearing and anointed the Town Talk Cafe with the ability to come in, and I will say this, it was a close vote, and it came down to Mayor Scholl, and maybe Councilor Hubbard and Councilor Gunderson, who voted against Town Talk Cafe getting approval, were just trying to put pressure on our mayor. But I will say this about Rick. He says, I did find it kind of odd that somebody who has already spoken that they were going to run for mayor is going to be sitting on an executive session, but he did meet all of the qualifications, and he produced everything he was asked for. He also said, after listening to legal, I'm going to go ahead and vote yes, because I want to avoid not only some legalities for myself, but also my fellow councilors. And so I'm going to take my hat off to Rick Scholl for doing the right thing when he needed to do it.
He did do the right thing.
And supporting the law, supporting free speech, supporting freedom of the press. Columbia County established a criteria for what they felt was a member of the press. And John Knight, who was a lawyer at the time, did that. And you meet all the criteria. Well, and the thing is this, is that our city council has been written up twice for discussing things in executive session they were not supposed to, and these are official reprimands by the State Ethics Commission. They were both turned in by Councilor Topaz.
Well, Greg, back before Councilor Topaz was even around, Greg Cohen, who wrote for the Chronicle. In fact, he was editor of the Chronicle.
Are we ending? Is it time to go?
Yeah, we're already Sure.
Oh my God, yeah.
No, I just going to say that that Greg Cohen, who's editor of the Chronicle, also blew the whistle on them, and he sat through an executive session where they had illegal executive sessions.
One quick thing is that they put executive sessions in, but they don't always meet. There's a bluff, and I'd like to see more press showing up. So not only myself, maybe Mr. Eagle, we'll get some other folks. And by the way, the Spotlight did an editorial where they supported the decision and supported Town Talk Cafe being a member of the press, and good for the Spotlight for that. So I guess we're running out of time. Kim, congratulations on your kids doing so well in the spelling and the math contest. We're glad to have you back. Bill Eagle, thank you so much for coming. Claudia, lovely Claudia. How long have you guys been married, Bill?
57 years.
57 years. And still going strong, too. Claudia, I do not know how you put up with it, but I don't either.
She's a saint.
I have a lot of other things going on.
There you go. Good for you. All right. Well, I don't know if we're going to run out of time here.
The lady has 2 PhDs. She's
we thought you'd be smarter than marrying a radical,
I thought she would be too. I thought she would be too. No, I married above my station in life.
That's good. I did that too. That's the way to do it as a man. Marry up. That's the way to go. And then you stay in line. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Claudia, for coming in. I love it. Thank you, Harry Price, for everything.
Thank you for letting me read that about Harry.
That was great.
You kidding me? It was awesome.
Great article.
Thank you. All right, then. See you guys.
Listening to St. Helens Town Talk Cafe with Steve Toski. You can email your comments on the show to Steve in care of kohi.radio@gmail.com. And be sure to listen again next time for another St. Helens Town Talk Cafe radio show on KOHI.